Hi, I'm Clarissa, and for my final project, I decided to visit a psychic and got a tarot reading done by him. The reason I chose this topic is because there's actually a shop nearby my house, and I've always been kind of interested in it, but I've never actually went in, so I decided to try something new. Some background information about tarot is that it originated in Europe and it was used as a card game, so it didn't really have much meaning until the 16th century, and that's when it began to be used for things like divination and guidance. My purpose for this project was to understand how psychics can use their ability to heal, and in this case, specifically through tarot. I also just wanted to try something that I was skeptical about. In this method of healing, there are only two participants, the reader and the person who's getting the reading done. And my role was to ask questions about anything at all, and the psychic would then use the cards to deliver answers or messages. When he was explaining how this worked, he mentioned that he uses people's energy and spirit guides to help deliver those messages. My biases mainly had to deal with the religion that I grew up in and the things I've seen in the media about psychics. I grew up being part of the Roman Catholic religion, and they're very against these kinds of things. From a very young age, they teach you that certain things are sinful and that they're related to witchcraft or that they're satanic and you shouldn't take part in them because they're not good. I was also skeptical because I've seen how the media portrays psychics, and it's usually that they're scammers and doing it for money. And living in the LA area, I feel like there's bound to be a handful of scammers in this field because many people see it as easy money. My biases changed once I actually started talking to the psychic. I noticed that he's very respectful and professional, and he didn't try to pry into my personal life and get a bunch of details before the reading. He even asked if I was sure that I wanted to go through with it because there's things that could be brought up that I may not want to or be ready to talk about. And he was also very sympathetic during the reading, which made me feel comfortable. And all of this combined just made me feel like I could trust him, especially him warning me about the reading. So, for this setting, the shop was actually pretty small, and something I noticed right away was that each wall inside the shop is painted a different color. I forgot to ask him if it meant anything, so I'm not sure if there's a specific reason why he has it like that. His shop also isn't specifically for tarot readings. He does sell other things like healing crystals, certain jewelry for protection against like bad energy and spirits. He also sells oils and herbs which are used for healing purposes. He said the oils could be used as ointments for any physical pain, or that they could also be used to soak incense sticks, which he also sells. The herbs, he mentioned that they could be used for spiritual cleanses, which is what most people buy them for, or that they could also be used as remedies too, like when you're sick. Towards the back of the shop is where the reading happened. It was a table, and the both of us sat on opposite ends of the table. There wasn't anything on the table except for the deck of cards and some incense burning, but that was on a different table. It was next to us though. So for the reading itself, it took about 40 minutes, and before we could start the reading, we actually had to do like an initiation process. And what that basically was is that he held the deck of cards in one of his hands, and with my right hand, I had to hover over the top of the deck and do a circle motion 3 times. And then I did that with my left hand, but under the deck. And he explained that was so he could channel my energy better and create a stronger connection. For the actual reading, I was able to ask 4 questions, and then after each question was asked, he would spread out the deck facing down, and then he would ask me to pick a card, and then he would pick 2 more cards, and basically those 3 cards had the message or answer to my question, and then this was repeated for every question that I asked. The messages ended up being very specific, which I didn't expect. I expected more general answers, but they also touched on very specific topics and things that had happened in my life, which I honestly didn't expect for them to get brought up. But they did, and I'm kind of glad that they did because I got some guidance on them, and I feel like it helped me move on from those situations too. And then at the very end, he tied all of the messages together to kind of give me a bigger message that would help me fix certain issues in my life and just allow me to live a better and peaceful life. And yeah, honestly, I was very shocked about everything. I didn't expect things to be so accurate. So, this is a picture of my spread, and I know it's hard to see because the cards are really old. And he actually talked about that. He said that the reason he uses this deck, even though it's so old, is because he feels most connected to it, and he hasn't been able to connect to other decks as much as he could with this one. He also feels like he works better when he uses a specific one. This is the only picture I was able to take because he has signs all around his shop that say you can't take pictures, and I didn't want to ask him because I mean the signs were there for a reason, and I felt like it would be disrespectful to push it. My method of data collection was through an informal interview. I didn't have specific questions that I wanted to ask, but I did have topics that I wanted to touch on, and then that's just how our conversation progressed. And then I would ask questions about things I wasn't sure of or didn't know about. I didn't ask him his age because I felt that would be rude, but we did talk about his cultural and religious background. He mentioned that he's Mexican and grew up practicing Catholicism, which is something that I could relate to because I'm Mexican as well, and I grew up in the Roman Catholic religion. He stopped in his early teens, and I did too. When I asked him about our culture and how it clashes with his work, he mentioned that his parents and his family didn't understand what he did for a long time and that they sort of ridiculed him, like they didn't think it was a real thing. And he blamed that on how traditional our culture is because the older generation tends to be very close minded and stick to their traditional ways. So they don't really like things like this. He also brought up how our culture or people in our culture tend to be very religious, which is why a lot of people are also close minded. Like they're so used to thinking that things like this are satanic or that it's in relation to witchcraft when it's not. In this setting, illness is understood as something that is more emotional rather than physical. And the psychic mentioned that he thinks it could be psychological as well because people go to him when they're feeling anxious or worried about certain things in their life. This would be treated by providing answers, clarity, guidance, and advice, which helps people feel better. In my experience, I went in feeling very confused and stressed out about my path in life and sad about certain things that were going on. And I left feeling more calm and more at peace with things, which really helped me. Healing in this setting is understood as helping ease emotional pain and worries, and the messages and answers help put people's mind at ease and guide them through certain issues or problems that they have. The psychic also mentioned that the cards don't give messages that are meant to make people worry more. Instead, they're meant to help guide people in the problems that they're facing in life. He mentioned that if a psychic or a reader is only saying negative things or not providing any actual insight on the issues or things that people are asking for clarity for, they're usually not a real tarot reader or they just don't know what they're doing. What I gained from this experience was a lot of clarity and peace, and at the end, I felt like a big weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Like I felt relieved. And so, psychic shops, I feel like, are actually very common in LA. And if people can find a reputable shop, then I think it could be very good for them. Culture, Health, and Illness mentions how tarot readers and psychics act as lay counselors and therapists, and the psychic actually said something very similar. He mentioned how people go to him and other readers and psychics for guidance and advice, which is what a lot of people go to therapy for. And when thinking about it in that sense, I feel like psychics and readers and tarot readers can be very beneficial to those who don't feel comfortable going to see a therapist or counselor for the fear of being judged or whatever reason they don't want to go to. But I don't think it's the best long term method of healing. I think it would be better combined with other methods or even combined with talk therapy. I feel like it won't help alone with more serious issues like depression or other mental health issues, because those need more long term methods of healing. Well, this is it for my project, and I hope you guys enjoyed it.